Okay.
And
Are we doing the intro first? Just want to make sure. Are we doing the outro?
Assalamu alaikum and welcome to About Islam, the online platform that presents mainstream Islam to the world. I am your host, Layla Abdullah-Poulos, and this is the final panel and the biggest one of the Black Muslim Authors Conference. It has been a fantastic month of panels, discussions, giveaways, all kinds of things. Don't forget to check us out at www.aboutislam.net. Also, remember to check out the Black Muslim Authors Conference page. We have information about our wonderful sponsors, the Muslim Anti-Racism Collaborative, Hold Hijab, Heart Women and Girls, NBA Muslims, Every Kind of Lady, Muslim Girl Reads, the African American Muslim Alliance of Tampa, Daybreak Press, and the Muslim Connection. Also, about our wonderful authors. And we have a book fair today. There are books you can grab up for ebooks for 99 cents. You can just snatch them up, snatch them up, snatch them up. So don't forget to check that out. Check that out as well. I am so happy about this panel because we got some pros up in here today. We got some established authors who've been making, they've been going into the game, making the game their own and pulling people in with them. Like they are not playing. These authors are not for play. Alhamdulillah. Welcome, Nasheed, Jaxon, Juwayriyah, Amani Jabbar, Zakiyyah, Papatia, Feauxzar, Naima Roberts, Halimah DeOlivera, Nzima Hutchings. Oh God. Oh snap! It's too early to.
You didn't get that water, did you?
I got my water, brother. I got my water. Don't worry about it. It's done. Hold on.
Little ginger.
And Sister Nora Islam representing Philly.
I'm sorry.
Down there, we got you on the squad.
I'm sorry. Hold on 1 second. Oops, it's live. That's what happens when it's live.
We got the whole squad
and
here.
Sister Nora Islam who will be performing for us. This is all very, very exciting. Sister Nora, you ready to give us a little something?
I absolutely am.
I'm looking forward to this.
Can you tell us once more how to share the page, the lives?
Okay, so you're on the About Islam page. The video should be the first thing that you see. Do you see it? On the underneath the picture, there should be a share button on the right side. So everyone share, and comment people's names too. All right.
Oh, I see it. It just must have gone up. Okay.
Okay. Are we good to go? There should be a share button on the right side.
I see it.
Turn your phones down so that there's no echo.
All right. There's a little thing I see. Okay. Well, good morning, everyone. Early afternoon. I wanted to start out with just a little introduction song. It's called Sister. Well, I call it Sister, but it's originally called Miss Celia's Blues. So I wanted to sing that. I'll start out with that, speak to the sisters, and hopefully the men are also going to listen to that, heed that message. And then I'll follow up with just a short little bit of one of my original Islamic inspirational songs. You ready?
Ready.
Ooh, oh, oh. Sisters, you've been on my mind. Oh, sisters, we're two of a kind, so sisters, I'm keeping my eyes on you. I bet you think I don't know nothing but singing the blues. Oh, sisters, have I got news for you? I'm something. I hope you think that you're something too. Oh, dumpling, I've been up that lonesome road and I've seen a lot of sun going down. Oh, but trust me, no long life's gonna run me around. So let me tell you something, sister, remember your name. No twisters gonna steal your stuff away, my sisters. We sure ain't got a whole lot of time. So are you with me, sisters? 'Cause honey Nora is feeling fine. That's that piece. I love the share that. I love the share
Oh,
that.
that was beautiful.
It's a deep message.
That was
And now I want to
beautiful.
wake you up just a little bit. This song is entitled Alhamdulillah for Everything. And it's on my album, Heart of a Muslim, Volume 1, which is available. All right. I woke up this morning, Alhamdulillah, and offered Salatul Fajr, Alhamdulillah. The sun is shining. I thank him for that. I could never count on my blessings, so thankful for all I have. Alhamdulillah for everything. Alhamdulillah for everything. Allah, 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 Allah. With every hardship, ease will come. Alhamdulillah. And so I thank him for the struggles. Alhamdulillah. The sun is shining. We thank him for that. Don't you never count your blessings. How can you if you don't thank him for all he has? There you go. Alhamdulillah for everything.
Alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah, Jazakallah, that's beautiful.
Thank you for
Barakallahu
having
feek.
me.
That
Sister
album
Nora,
is, 'cause my
make
daughters
sure
will
you
love
link it. Make sure you link your work in the chat box so we can put shit out to the audience, inshallah.
I
Try to
definitely
get that up
will.
onto aboutislam.com. Thank you for your performance.
Assalamu alaikum.
All right,
Alaikum
go.
salam.
Rahmatullah.
Okay, so how's
Wow,
everyone feeling? How has this month been for everyone? I know that Black History Month can be very busy,
Crazy.
and we've been very busy here with the conference and everything like that. So it's the last day. How does that feel?
I can't
I
believe
don't feel like I
we're
did
almost
enough.
July.
You don't feel like you did enough, Nasheed?
Nah, I don't feel like I did enough, man.
Well, what else is there to do?
But normally it's like, alhamdulillah for, about Islam and the NBA Muslim conference, because I was able to be out there. But normally I go perform.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I go perform at different places.
Yeah, but COVID kind of put the
It was different. It was different.
It was interesting because of we usually do this at different venues, like we've done NY University and the Hartford Public Library for our first two. And so with COVID, definitely made it digital. And one of the things that happened was the frustrations that I felt at not being able to have all the great Muslim authors that I've gotten to know and work with and everything like that participate because of distance, because we're all over the place. Naeem is in the UK, okay? Papatia's in Texas. I'm in New York, and you're in Atlanta.
Atlanta, that's it.
I think that's why technology is great, though. So we can still meet online.
Right. That's what made it better, right?
I'm grateful we
Yeah.
can come together,
Yeah.
even virtually. It's better than nothing.
Yeah.
I think that
because-
technology has been a mercy from Allah, over the years, even before COVID, for us, because I think Nzima and Miriam and I are the only two that met each other like face to face in person in all these years. So I think
No, Halimah was with us in New York.
Oh yeah, that's right. You at the
Yes,
NYU.
she was. Yes, she
And
was.
we went to the restaurant. It was
Asia
very
was
much
there.
Harlem Renaissance.
I met you at an Eid barbecue.
Oh yeah, that's right. In there. Okay, so y'all just gotta shut me.
It was just insignificant. It's okay.
It was
No,
not
I'm joking.
insignificant.
I'm joking.
That was
I'm
a
joking.
social thing. It was not insignificant. No, I remember that and all the wonderful food and everything like that. I remember
No,
that
I'm
bean pie
joking. Yeah.
because I do not like bean pie, but I like that bean pie. I remember that.
It's a
So,
good food that
but I
day.
mean,
That, you
as
know,
far
that's
as like,
Black History Month. That is a crime in Black History Month for you to say you don't like black bean pie. And everybody
Vote her
knows that.
card.
Card revoked.
y'all really gonna get on me
Three
about
strikes.
bean pie? Listen, sweet potato pie is better. That's it.
Yeah, I can agree with
Hold
that.
on, we black on both
Thank
sides, man. We black on both sides. Hold on.
Both
I
sides.
agree with you, Layla. Sweet potato pie is good. I love that actually.
Me too.
That's all I'm saying. Okay. So we get to do a lot of work and interact with each other and do a lot of things together digitally. And that has very much been a blessing from Allah. But like Nasheed said, we're gonna lead up into Black on both sides. And we've been discussing that all month long. The whole idea of Black Muslims owning their Blackness and their Muslimness and not and resisting any kind of alienation or separation that many people have tried to make. You can't be Black and Muslim. I don't know how that is when you look at African countries.
I
There's
know.
so many African countries that are majority Black Muslims, but here in the United States and in the UK, it's a very distinctive cultural experience that happens where it's just like the schism that's created, and we've since started to push back against that. So that
It's
gets me
bad
to
faith.
wondering
It's
when
just
it
bad
comes
faith.
to that, Blackness and that Muslimness and your work, okay, what role does each one play? Do you sometimes prioritize one over the other, or is it just like this natural thing that occurs, and when you're speaking to your experience and you really don't kind of think about and weigh those distinctions? Amani, in your book, you have an African American Muslim family.
Yes.
Very great book. I connected with it a lot. Did you weigh that in, like how much of your Black experience and your Muslim experience you're going to integrate into the book, or was it just like this kind of natural thing where you just integrated both? You didn't have to make those distinctions?
To me, it just wasn't a choice. Like it's just so woven into my identity growing up. Second generation Muslim, growing up in various masajid, and being a part of that culture, which is so rich and so beautiful, and me wanting to share that and celebrate that. And that could be for Black Muslims who are not Black Muslim, to discover that culture, or even non-Muslims. It just wasn't a choice. It was just something that I knew I had to express, because when I was growing up and I was reading books, it wasn't something that was I couldn't find books that were based on that culture and that experience. So when I decided to write a book, I knew I wanted that to be at the forefront of my story. They say write what you know, and that's just so much a part of me. I wanted to express that.
And I mean, you said you're a second generation Black Muslim, and for the most part, you're obviously Black, okay? But that could be something that's challenging to someone that maybe you don't have those typically Black marker of having a darker skin tone. So like Naima, we had conversations about that, okay? And so when you've written your work, so you've written some great stories, okay? Did you kind of weigh in what role your Blackness and your Muslimness would play in it, or is it just a matter of, again, like Amani said, this natural progression that you went through?
Jazakallah khair. I think it's a really, really strong point, and I think that there's a difference between coming to a story and telling that story because it's the story you needed to hear. A lot of that I find with many of us, there is that book which was an expression of who you are, where you've come, and what you needed when you were growing up, which wasn't there, whether it's a picture book or a chapter book or even a novel. So there's that. It's almost like a genre of its own, and I see so many of us claiming that identity, as you said, of being Black and Muslim, and saying this is who I am, this is where I've come from, and this is the story that I never heard when I was growing up. With me, my segue into children's books was much more from sort of the Muslim angle, because there were no Muslim books really, so few. We're talking 2000, 2001 in the UK anyway. So few books about Muslims, period. So what I did was I just wrote about a Muslim experience, and kind of the illustrator would then choose, because it would be an ambiguous, racially ambiguous story, but a very Muslim story. And then when I started going into novels, obviously a novel needs much more detail. You can't make it just ambiguous and it's like, oh, it could be anyone. I started with a Somali novel first. And it wasn't because I wasn't writing the book I needed to hear, the book I needed to read, because I'm a revert and I didn't have that kind of that push to write. It was, this is the story that came to me. And it just so happened that it was, a Somali family. The story was around the issues of, Somalis in diaspora, etc. So I guess my experience is a lot more chameleon-like, because each one of my young adult novels, I am a different person. So I've got, the Somali story, we've got the Asian story, then there's the mixed race kind of South London urban story, then there is the Black South London story, and so all these different ones. So my father once said to me that I have, I think he called it negative capability, which means that you're able to get under the skin of your characters so much that they are not a reflection of you anymore. You inhabit the characters and you do what the story needs the characters to do, rather than the story doing what you need it to do. And I think it's just different approaches to story writing, and also what your kind of end goal is in that sense.
Yeah, but see, there's a distinction between that, because if you are telling a cultural story from your cultural experience, there's a very big distinction between that and having characters who are diverse. And so in those instances, have you thought about exploring really telling a story from your cultural perspective? Because what I'm hearing right now is that everything, even though they're great stories, people love your stories, and I agree with your father, you're very adept. You don't make the mistake that a lot of white authors make, and that is imprinting their whiteness on diverse characters. Do not do that. So like in Black Boy, you very much do not feel like this is like written by this is not coming, this character is not telling the Black South London boy. He's telling his story, not the Black South Londoner story type of thing. And or having imprinted on him just those cultural distinctions that make you specifically, a Black Muslim. So it's just like, that's very important that you do that. But then you have yet to explore your cultural experience and inserting your cultural experience, using your gifts and talents to do that. Have you ever thought about doing that?
I would say I've done it kind of twice. Far From Home for me is not a Muslim story, but that's me, because I'm from Zimbabwe. That's actually my background historically. Is I grew up in Zimbabwe. As people may know, my parents are from South Africa. My dad's white and my mom's Black, but I didn't grow up in South Africa. I grew up in Zimbabwe. So Far From Home was actually my going home story. That was my kind of root story. And then the closest thing I'd say to my cultural experience is much more She Wore Red Trainers, because She Wore Red Trainers is this, I mean, you probably know if you've read She Wore Red Trainers, the characters, it's not clear who they are. All you know is that they're urban. They're urban, they're from the people, they're of the people, and they speak like I speak, and how, my sisters and my brothers and our children speak. And in London, it's funny because it's not so much your race that makes you speak a particular way. It really is a cultural thing. So you'll find white kids, Asian kids, Somali kids, all of them kind of having the same way of speaking, very, very similar cultural sort of codes of conduct, etc. And especially in a melting pot community like the one I grew up in as a Muslim, Brixton, a heavily revert population. So heavily revert. very, you know, a lot of Black reverts, African and Caribbean, but also lots of white reverts, lots of mixed race, lots of reverts from just all over the place. But everybody kind of ends up just being urban Muslim, you know, with a touch of like a bit of street and stuff like that. So it's a tough one. I don't think my case is as cut and dried, I think, as Amani, because and maybe other authors as well, who, like you said, there is a specific cultural narrative or a history that maybe we're coming from, which needs expression. I just don't have one, because mine is just a hybrid of loads of different experiences from before Islam into Islam, and then, you know, navigating inside London, and then, you know, marriage and all of that kind of thing. So yeah, it's a funny one.
Well, there are Muslims with very, very layered experiences. I mean, Halima, you're a Black Latina Muslim. And yeah, I remember one time, I knew you were Latina. I knew you were, but it wasn't until I think it was at the conference, it was somewhere, and you went, that Spanish, you was like, and I was like, oh yeah, that's right. She's Latina. She's Latina. Yeah, she knows the language and everything, because not all Latinos speak Spanish. You know, like my kids don't speak Spanish. My husband does, but they don't. So how do, and your wonderful story, okay, not without my hijab, when you were writing it, and you've since it's become a play, and you give motivational speeches based on it and everything like that, people come to you and they talk to you, and they very much do connect with your story. How much of that did you decide to assert your Muslimness, your Blackness, your Latino background, or was it something where it just kind of melded together, or it's just that your Muslimness is just really at the forefront and that's it?
I would say it's a mixture of everything, but my Muslimness is definitely on top of everything. I think, you know, my background is that I went away from Islam. So second generation Muslim as well. My parents converted to Islam here in New York City. And so my brothers and sisters and I, we were all born Muslim. We lived all over the world. So we lived on or traveled to 5 of the 7 continents. And, you know, we just have this, we're a melting pot within our own, you know, family. And, you know, for me, I wanted to, one, tell the whole story in Not Without My Hijab, because I felt that it was important to know I went to all these places. I went through all of these different experiences because what has happened, the reason why Not Without My Hijab, the book and the play, has done so well is because a lot of people can relate to me, and it crosses, you know, races, even cultures, you know, cultural barriers. It crosses even religions too, because everyone is, you know, has moved away from faith and is, you know, now in these, you know, the year 2020, 2021, we're trying to come back to faith. I think that's what 2020 was all about. So for me, I wanted to put, we got shook. Look, Allah shook us up. He was like, hello, did you forget I was in charge?
Wake up.
Yes, like this. So, you know, for me, you know, it was important at that time. I was coming back to Islam. When I wrote Not Without My Hijab, I had been back practicing, you know, as a Muslim for almost 3 years when I wrote that book. And it was very important for me to tell that story, because what I was finding in going to the masjid and praying, you know, going to Jummah prayer, et cetera, is that I was finding more women like me, you know, that had struggled, you know, in their current struggle or trying to come back. And I, you know, just because of what was around me, I was like, more women need to hear this story. And if it happened to me, and now for whatever reason, Allah is bringing all of these women to me that are struggling, some of them on their way out, some of them coming back, more people are going through this. And I want to help my sister, you know, the same way that, you know, 2 sisters helped me, Alhamdulillah, to be able to come back. I wanted to be that for women. So Muslimness is, you know, definitely at the forefront of writing that book and everything that I do. It's inshallah, alhamdulillah, to the point where my non-Muslim clients are like, inshallah, we're going to do that. Halima, did you pray for me
Let
today?
them learn.
Listen, okay? They're like, did you make that special dua? Did you get up for tahajjud for me? Like, I sure did, you know, sis. So Muslimness is very much at the top. Then my Blackness, my womanness, and then kind of the rest of me follows suit.
Well, you know, you speak that story definitely speaks to a very real thing in Muslim women culture, you know, and so it was something that's very much needed. Papatia, okay, so you you're in Texas now, but you're not originally from Texas.
Yes.
And you have, let's show everyone your t-shirt. Go on, tell everyone your
Oh.
t-shirt.
Okay.
Unapologetically black.
Black.
That's
Can you
right.
see it? It's a little blurry, but yeah.
Okay, so pop it back up.
Can you see it?
Yeah,
Okay,
we
all right,
see it.
good.
So now,
Okay.
the question I have for you is that did you experience that schism, like that schism that a lot of African American and British Muslims, Black British Muslims face, that like that schism between their blackness and their Muslimness? Is that something you didn't face until you came here, and hence
Yes.
the T-shirt? And when you
Yes.
write, has it influenced you since coming here? Since you're coming from like where it's just like a thing, it wasn't a thing, and then it
Mhm.
became a thing, and then you
Yeah.
and then you wrote. So did that
Yeah.
influence how you wrote?
It did. It did influence me a lot because I'm originally from West Africa, Ivory Coast, between Ghana and Liberia, and
Cote
over
d'Ivoire.
there, yeah, Cote d'Ivoire, Ivory Coast, yeah. So I was there, like,
Cotier?
no, Cote d'Ivoire, like
Oh,
Ivory Coast.
okay.
Elephant Ivory, Ivory Coast. Anyway, so over there, born Muslim from a long generation of Muslims. I wasn't really wearing hijab. I was wearing hijab back and forth like that until I moved over there. You're just, nobody really pays attention to your skin color because everybody's black. It's here when you come here to the United States that you become black. There's a big difference, like so it's really hard for us. Like when you come, then you know that you're black. At first you're just Ivorian or just African, we all distinct. Oh, where are you from? Are you from Nigeria? Oh, okay, Nigerian. Okay, I know. It's like it's about nationality when you're in Africa, but when you come here, it becomes a little different, with struggles. So I had to adjust myself to the fact that I was black now in America. And then when I tell people I'm Muslim, they're like, what? I never heard that the Muslim in that area of the world. And then it's like a lot of people, even though they know of like some Muslim where like at the time of a prophet, like the mother, the stepmother of the prophet Muhammad, that say don't can add that a black person can be Muslim. So that really frustrated me a lot, especially married to an Eastern Muslim, where like a lot of them, even though they're familiar with the black culture, they still have issues understanding some black people can be Muslims, So you have to
I
educate that
never
side of.
get that. I can't understand that. I never understand
I
why
still
it
don't
is
get
that
it.
all of a sudden you come here,
Hmm.
and even especially given the history. I mean, with the Black Muslim movement. I mean, it used to, like Donna Austin said, it used to be when you thought of Muslims, you thought of black people. You didn't think of anybody else. But then all of a sudden people come here, not even shaking their head, because we talked about this.
No, because a lot of it is because of what they feel is real Islam. For them, sometimes it's about if you're not following the special sheikh, like sheikh, then you're not, what they call being a Muslim, or you know what I'm saying. And then the people of the book did that. They call themselves, you're not on the right path, you're not on the right path. But they all read the book. It's the same thing with Muslim now. So like we all said the Shahada, but like you see some Muslim community, they'll say, oh no, you're not really following Islam. So it's like the thing that we're one against, that's what we're doing between us. No, you're not Muslim. No, you're not Muslim. You can't be supposed to be Muslim. You have to follow this special sheikh for us to know that you're real, Muslim. So that's the problem. It's not like they don't know that we practice Islam. It's a lot of them think that because we're not following the special sheikh, for them the sheikh, our sheikh don't know nothing.
But
I
think
don't know because I've had Middle Eastern or people from overseas see me in my hijab standing just like this and ask me, "Are you Muslim?" And I'm like, "Why do you think I'm wearing this on my head? I have hijab
It's not
on."
a fashion
I'll ask
statement.
Naima if she in the car.
It's not a fashion statement.
I don't
Yeah, it's like
understand it
I'm
at
not.
all.
It's no. It's like anybody. So it's like it frustrated me a bit, and I was like, so when I was writing, I was like, you know what? I had to, even though it flows naturally, because I have my own Muslim experience, my own African experience, my own Black experience. So I merge all these in my writing, and it's kind of like therapeutic, very therapeutic for me to write what I go through, the struggle that I go through, even with like some Muslim, like like I have a Muslim country. Sometimes we're like, really? You wear a scarf? Never heard of an African, an Ivorian person, because usually people are used to Nigerian people wearing a scarf. You know what I'm saying? Like people from Africa, even though we've been Muslim from generation to generation, people don't really, because if a lot of Muslim from Africa also, they usually see that the Nigerian, for my West Africa, the Nigerian are a little bit more rebellious because they wear the scarf anywhere, they don't care. So if I say that I'm from West Africa, oh, Nigerian, I'm like, no, I'm not original Nigerian. I'm from West Africa. I mean, from Ivory Coast. It's everywhere. You face the problem. I mean, that struggle everywhere from all sides. But alhamdulillah, for writing, you people kind of see your experience and they understand better and they ask better questions and alhamdulillah.
Well, I mean, the one thing that all of you have contributed is are books that not only people from across backgrounds can relate to, but more importantly, me as a Black Muslim can relate to, because that's what I'm thinking about when I'm looking at these books and the need for these books. So, like Papatia, you have Who Am I, which is it's about interracial children.
Oh yeah, actually, I say what am I for a
What am
reason.
I? What am I?
Yeah, what am I?
Because that's what they ask.
Yeah, but so what race
what
are
you?
you?
Not who are you?
What are you? Yeah, what are you? They ask
And,
that.
I mean, it was important for me because my children are multiracial, and yeah, there's a lot of multiracial books out there. Okay, but to be able to read one to my kids that had covered Muslim children, covered mom and everything.
Yeah, and then they deny the question. Like when you talk about race with like Muslim people who are white, they deny that they don't see color. But between percent, I have evidence that they ask, like, how does the mom look like? How does the kid look like? And then you say, oh well, when he's next to his father, he looks black, but when he's next to his mom, he looks white. So I'm like, you guys gonna say something like this behind my back, and then gonna tell me that you don't see color when I question about it? You know what I'm saying? Those things. It's like they say, oh no, we don't see color, but behind your back, or when you catch a conversation like this, they're like, oh, we didn't think that.
Wait, I gotta get this around my head.
Right.
If they're with your husband,
So like,
they see white, and when they're with you,
no, they're like, oh no, she's just one of us, or she's Muslim or whatever. And we don't see you, we all the same, blah blah blah.
Lies.
But like but behind you, we're like, oh, but if they never seen you, we'll ask your husband, my husband, ask my like, how does the kid look like? How does the mother look like? It's like there has to be this question in evidence of this. And I was like, why can you tell me you don't see color? And then you ask me how my kids look next to the father, to the next to the mom. And I'm like, you don't tell me you don't see color if you ask this kind of question behind my back. So don't tell me why can I educate my son about race when you ask this kind of question. So I have to prepare my son one day, and then people stare.
It becomes very important. You need those
Yeah,
books.
because your kid will be blindsided one day. You understand? You'll be blindsided if you don't start talking about these things. That's the reason I wrote this book, because people act like, it's a lot of hush questions. And I don't want it to be hush. Let's be honest about this discussion. That's the reason I wrote the book. But some people act like,
They definitely need it. We need it. We need to see ourselves in it. And we need inspiration. We need to be able to get inspiration because, there is a disconnect. If you're looking at things like Chicken Soup for the Soul or something like that, it's nice. Not saying anything about that, but there's something, I remember one time I started watching these Indonesian horror films because I'm a real horror fan. Don't judge me.
What?
And I used to be able to watch anything, blood, gore, everything like that. I have very few limitations when it comes to it. And then I started watching these Indonesian horror films. Now, the distinction between the Indonesian horror film and the other horror films that I've been watching is that they recite Quran in those films. So it's like someone is possessed and there's blood and everything like that, and they're reciting Quran, and it's not working. Sometimes it don't work, and that hits very differently from my perspective. It was just like, I was scared. I was like, wait a second, they were reciting Quran, they ain't working. Hold up. That's not flying with me. I'm gonna have to watch something else, but it's on Netflix, by the way, if you want to check it out. But so inspiration, it's the same way when you have inspiration that comes from your cultural perspective, especially, as a Black Muslim. I'm going to be honest. People are going to be mad, but that's okay. They can be mad. They can be in their feelings for a minute. That sometimes I want inspiration from someone that I can connect with on those multiple identities. That's speaking to me from that cultural experience, in a way that I can connect with it a lot. And that's something that you do, Baina, in your Juwayriyah, Zakiyyah, Zakiyyah. That's something that you do a lot. I just glossed over it. That's
It's okay. I like all of those names.
That's something that you do though, because quite honestly, yeah, this works by Muslim scholarship. First of all, there's an emotional disconnect, disconnect from becoming really inspirational. Not saying that you don't totally, but there is another layer when it's coming from someone from your perspective, speaking in a way that they know how to connect to you, they know how to get right to you, they know the words to use, in a way that it's like, oh, whew, yeah, where's my Quran at? Because I gotta get my life together. Yeah. And that's something that you do, And so in a lot of your books, it is very much upfront. Like even that book in the back, Muslim Girl.
Oh,
All
yeah.
right, let's use that for an example. Because I had read and gotten nauseated by YA after YA after YA after YA. Not because it's YA, because it's the same thing, the parents don't understand them and everything like that. Now you have elements of that in your book, but the style that you use and the approach that you use, very much with the Black Muslim girl, it's like, oh yeah, wow. You know what? Oh yeah, I can totally get with that, and I can totally dig that because of the way that you wrote it, the way that you wrote that book. And I think that becomes important in order to connect with Muslims and especially Black Muslims. What do you think?
I agree. I agree, but I will admit I didn't consciously write it thinking, oh, let me connect with Black Muslims.
Well, that's a shame.
Is it? Is
you
it?
Definitely do.
Yeah. No, I don't consciously think that, simply because for me, being Black is just a part of who I am, and that's going to be reflected in the characters. And another reason that I don't consciously say, let me write this book to connect with Black Muslims, I may say, let me write this book to represent a Black experience. And those are two different things for me. And the reason that I do that is actually, it's a very personal reason. And I think you saw a bit in the Black Muslim Reads book that we did, because of what my background, of what I went through personally with family and the community, where when I began to study about Islam, I was told that I'm betraying the Black community by not basically blindly following a Black sheikh or a Black imam, and by following the Quran and Sunnah as I understood it. So I was basically kind of kicked out when I was in my early 20s of being Black, So what I decided at that time is, I'm just going to be true to myself. I am a Black person. Allah made me that. And I'm no longer going to stress, because I spent a lot of years stressing. It affected my health, trying to prove like, no, I'm not trying to betray. I'm just trying to follow what's true. And that was very traumatic for me. So I consciously make sure that I lead with authenticity of who I am spiritually and who I am, how Allah created me. I am Black. But if I were to consciously try to reach the Black audience, I think that would have been triggering for me, simply because I have been told over and over and over again that I have betrayed the Black community by not blindly following a Black imam, a Black sheikh, and by opening myself up to studying Islam from different sources. Obviously, I've studied under African Americans, I've studied the Arabs. When I moved to Saudi Arabia, it was this big thing. And I went through a lot of trauma. And I talk about that in some of my books. So for me, when you said that's a shame, I was like, so what? I don't care.
Not for me. I'm feeling breezy about it.
I don't know, because I think I've reached a point where I know you were joking, by the way. I know you were joking. But what I feel is that those people are the ones who have an issue with their identity. When you're so insecure that you feel that someone has betrayed you because their heart is open to submitting to their creator and learning from whoever can help them get to Jannah, you have the problem. That's not Blackness, that's sickness. Okay.
Spiritual abuse.
Yeah, it's a spiritual abuse. And as far as I'm concerned, my perspective represents the true Black experience as Allah intended. And what I mean, I'm not saying perfectly. I'm saying what my goal and what I'm striving to do. I think that's insanity to believe that in order to be authentically me, I have to only study from people with melanin in their skin. That's stupid. That's absolutely stupid. But what I'm saying is, I'm just explaining to you why I didn't consciously do that, because in part of my healing process was embracing who I am. As Allah created me, Allah gave me my Blackness. No human can take that away. And so I'm just going to step into my identity that Allah gave me. And for everyone dealing with their own insecurities, that they're so insecure that they can only identify with someone spiritually who comes from the same background, that's their personal problem, even when it comes in a community group.
Isn't that what we complain that the non-Black Muslims do? We complain about
Yeah,
that.
that's what I was saying. Like, we're doing the same thing. We're not supposed to be doing that.
But
like,
do you guys feel like maybe that's based on the trauma that African Americans have faced when trying to come into other communities? I know some Muslims who are hesitant to go into other communities because of the way that they've been treated when they tried to integrate into an Arab mosque or an Indo-Pakistani mosque, the way that people have looked at you and approached you and questioned your Islam. Some people are traumatized from that. And when you tell them, well, I'm going to go learn from Sheikh so-and-so from Egypt or Sheikh so-and-so from Pakistan, they still have that feeling of how they felt when they tried to reach out. And that's just another way of looking at it.
Oh yeah, no.
Well,
It's the other way of looking at it. It's the way that was explained to me. And 3 words: cycle of abuse. You're traumatized, you're abused. I'm going to now pass that on to someone else. I understand the reason for a personal choice. Let me be very clear. Till today, I feel the most comfortable around my African-American brothers and sisters. Till today. And I am straight up very hesitant to step foot in a predominantly Desi or Arab masjid because, meaning, I don't want to say hesitant.
It's not safe.
It can be traumatizing in certain cases. However, what I am getting at is when we choose to abuse, and that's what it is, other Black people because of what we suffered, we are doing nothing different from what we suffered. We're starting a cycle. Yeah. And I get the trauma, but we know from psychology that the people who are abusers, many times they come from abusive situations. And what we need to do as African Americans is stop playing the victim card when we're harming each other.
No, we don't want to use that word victim card. We don't
well,
want to use that
I'm using it.
Well, that's that comes from the broader white culture in a way.
I don't care where it comes from. It's coming from my mouth.
But you're shutting down. You should care because
we just have to be aware of the trauma that we have experienced going into those communities.
I'm not buying
and not saying that we should not saying that we should perpetuate that on each other, but it's a real trauma. So playing the victim card is kind of saying, well, that it doesn't exist when it does exist till this day.
Listen to what I said. I don't define words based upon the original, because if we were to do that, none of us should be speaking English or calling the day Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. That came from this. I'm going to say, no, listen to what I'm saying. Listen to what I'm saying. This is the kind of stuff that we do to each other. It is a card. When here's how I define a card. Something you pull out to use to your advantage to harm another person instead of looking at yourself. If there's another word in the dictionary that's better to use, fine. But hear what I'm saying, okay? Look at me for a second as somebody who maybe English is not their first language. Just follow what I'm saying. Understand what I mean. You can choose another terminology, because victim card, I'm not married to victim card. But I refuse to have a conversation about words when you can hear my heart. Hear my heart for a second. This is the mistake that we make. We want to shut people down because of words that they use, labels that they use. And we do it constantly. This is across African Americans, this is with Arabs. And what traveling has done for me is taught me to listen to the language of the heart. Sometimes I may be talking to someone and someone may use the word Negro. I have to pause for a second, or nigger. They don't know. And so I said, then I'll say later, I'll say, you know what? Actually, in our culture, X, Y, and Z, and they say, oh, I didn't know that. Instead of telling them, shutting down their point when you know what they're trying to say. And so as Muslims, it is our obligation to listen to the language of the heart. You understood what I meant. Okay.
We understand what you're saying. It's just when you say victim card, it's kind of negates the true experiences that African Americans have had. Or it could be perceived that way.
Again, since I
explained
explained
that way, it's part of, it's very, I need you to listen to me. Okay, because you did just what you said. What you said not to do is actually what you did.
And that's how I felt with you.
Words have significance.
Yeah.
And as Muslims, we know that. Okay, we know the reason why the Quran was so very scary. Because there are ayahs that came down that made Meccans tremble because of what it meant, what the impact it had, and the impact it had on the society, what it meant about people's placement in the society and everything like that. There exists here in the American society a broader, dominant, white supremacist-based culture that has a racial codified language.
Okay, do me a
Race
favor.
card is one of those terms.
Okay, do me a favor.
So
change the word victim role.
I allowed you to finish. I allowed you to finish. Race card. Race card. Yeah, I waited till you finished, and I said we don't want to use the term race cards because it dismisses trauma. Both Sister Amani and I did allow you to finish, and so I'm just asking you to allow me to finish. As Muslims, if we know the Prophet ﷺ said what? That a Muslim is one from whom other Muslims are safe from their hand and from their tongues. That means that as a Muslim, that means that I did let you speak, and I only said we don't want to use that term because it dismisses trauma. All right.
And that's the only
reason why I said that. That's the only reason why I said that.
I accept that. I'm a panelist.
Because you said I'm not buying that. I'm not buying that and everything like that. And that was dismissive. And so the only thing I'm saying is that we are in we've done this so that we can each share and appreciate our cultural experiences, our backgrounds, and everything like that. So the one thing that we definitely want to do as Muslims, okay, is that if someone is saying that they have an issue with a certain word or a certain phrase, we need to at least appreciate that and not say, well, I'm not down with that or anything like that.
No, listen to what I said.
Now the whole conversation is diverted and deflected. So
because you chose to divert it. Here's what I said. Let me clarify what I meant. I said you can change the word. Do you recall me saying that? I said, listen to my heart. You made a decision to make a whole, I'm in the middle of talking about my own trauma. You interrupted it because you didn't appreciate a word. And I'm saying, I'm not going there. Listen to my heart. We can change the terminology. I don't care, but you understand what I'm trying to say. This is the type of stuff that I've consistently experienced over and over in different parts of the world. We fixate on a word. We understand, like, for example, people argue about convert and revert. I've been in situations where people will go on for hours. Which word should we use? And I'm like, can we just please get on to the point? Who cares? Okay. What I'm saying, how I define it, maybe it doesn't fit into, I don't have the knowledge of the all of the history behind that word. But to me, that's what it feels like. Now, perhaps the better word is victim role. Perhaps the word is toxic victimhood. You're more knowledgeable in those type of terms. I submit to that. But what I'm getting at is this is the problem. What just happened is the problem. I felt dismissed. You felt dismissed. Both of our feelings are valid. And I'll publicly apologize to you for dismissing you. That was not my intention. My intention was to say, I personally don't get into micromanaging how someone expresses themselves when it's clear what they mean. Okay, when it's clear what they mean. This is a problem in the Black community. I went through this. This is one of the reasons why I don't put myself forward as any representative of the Black experience as in the way that many people want, because every day I learn something new. You can't say that, you can't say that, you can't say this. And I admit I am not knowledgeable in that. So if you or anyone else on the panel felt that, and Amani, and I appreciate her feedback, because I did feel that that was a very diplomatic way of explaining it. But what I'm saying to you, going back to my point, we justify harming each other due to our trauma. And if I did the same thing, I admit it, I'm a human being. I apologize for that, but this made the whole point. We detract from from a greater experience. I am sitting here, you invite me on the panel, I'm explaining to you my trauma. And then when I say, okay, no, I'm not getting into that. No. Now I get this whole thing about a word when I just said, listen to my heart.
Can I just say something?
Forget the word. Forget
Amani?
the word.
I don't think it was necessarily just the word victim role. I think it was just, for me anyway, and I'm sorry if you were offended, just for us to have a greater understanding of why somebody who's listening, who has this experience, why would an African-American Muslim be hesitant to go into spaces where they might be the only Black Muslim, or, you know, a place that's predominantly Indo-Pakistani or predominantly Arab. And I just wanted that to be out there, that it wasn't just, you know, this reverse racism that people like to use. It's rooted in a very real trauma that a lot of my parents have experienced, I've experienced, and, you know, generations of us who have come up as Black Muslims in this country have experienced. And that's just my point.
No, I appreciate that, and I understood that, and I think you did not offend me. You did not offend me, and I get what you're saying, and I understand that. But what I'm saying is that we as Muslims, okay, especially Muslims, have to get into the issue of the soul and get into the issue of leaving the cultures of dhulm. And I think it's I love to learn. However, when we are in a situation and it's clear, when someone has made it clear what they mean, why do we keep going off on these long tangents over and over and over again when you get the point? Okay, and for me, no problem. I'll go and research what is the origin of victim card. But to me, emotionally, for years, that's how I processed it. Okay, it could be due to my influence by the white dominant culture. Yeah, we're all speaking English. I think we're all influenced by the white dominant culture. But for me personally, expressing myself, and this is why I don't agree with the interruption, you know, because when we're talking about the Muslim, okay, we talk about, this is the excuse that was used to me. Okay, all of these hadith are used of why I have to now get involved with only African Americans. And I'm showing evidence why I can actually deal with other people, okay? And then when I go around those people, they have their own racism. So it goes both ways. You're not allowed to harm me, I'm not allowed to harm you. So what I'm trying to say is, I felt that I was dismissed. I felt that was disrespectful. And I felt like that hadith goes both ways. If I caused harm to the audience, I apologize to that. I apologize to them. If I cause harm to you, I apologize for that. But harm can go both ways. It's not just one direction.
If we could get back on track to Amani's original question, I think that it's dualistic. And I think oftentimes and it could be even more than dualistic, because everyone's experiences can be so distinctive. And I think that one thing that occurs, okay, in many Black communities, okay, at least I know it was something that occurred a lot here where I am in Southern New York. And that is when there was a huge transition into an influx of Black Muslims into Sunni Islam. One of the things that did occur is there was like a mix of Sunni and Shiaism that occurred, and so there was this whole idea of bay'ah. So it's just like what Papatia said about, oh well, you're not following this very specific sheikh, then you're not really Muslim. And so what occurred was like this whole idea that you had to give bay'ah to this imam. If you did not give bay'ah to this imam, your Muslimness was discredited and your Islam was shaky and questionable. So to go outside of that, which is what Juwayriyah did, and she faced backlash because of that. So that's one very specific cultural experience that does occur. Does that happen in Atlanta at all, Nasheed?
Here, man,
You got to follow this imam, or else you're not really Muslim, or you have to.
It happens. It does happen. There's a whole situation going on here right now that I don't even think I should be speaking on, but yeah, it happens.
We're gonna have to go to undisclosed location after.
Yeah, I ain't gonna speak on, but yeah, it happens.
Trying to put in
for the
witness protection program.
Right. But it's not more of a cultural thing. It's more of a sect thing. Like everybody black, for the most part, but it just depends on where you at,
The politics.
But you still, yeah, exactly. But it's still, but you still are able to, I guess, be with other Muslims. Yeah, be with the Muslim community. Everybody know each other, regardless of what imam you follow or whatever. But yeah, it's not a cultural thing here. It's or a Arab or a Indo-Pac thing. It's more of it's sect. It's cut off in sects here in Atlanta. And
what if you decide to go? I don't want to do any of that, and I want to do my own thing and do this. Would you potentially face ostracism because of that, being ostracized?
Do my own thing?
Yeah. So I don't want to follow any of those imams.
I want to follow. I mean, yeah. In fact, I'll probably fall in that. I'll probably fall in that. Because I go everywhere. I'm at every masjid. Like I try to go to everywhere without, as they say, giving bayat to a particular masjid. But I'm still able to.
Miriam knows that bayat. You know that from back in the day.
But I'm still able to hang with those Muslims that connect me.
Okay.
You know what I mean? I'm still able to hang with. As far as, and I still go into masjids. I still know, those people who are in charge. Yeah. So it happens here also. Yeah, it happens.
I came from that experience. Alhamdulillah, I always say that I was Allah blessed me when I became Muslim. I became part of a predominantly African-American community. Okay, that's where I socialized and everything like that. And there were definitely issues, and there was that whole bay'ah thing and everything like that. And then I got married and I ended up outside of all of that. And I do still socialize with them and everything, but they always treated my husband a little bit differently because he didn't get bay'ah to see me or anything like that. But I ended up in a predominantly Desi and Middle Eastern community, and the racism and anti-blackness far outweighed any of the issues when it came to Bayah and the Maghrib Rule. Does anyone remember the Maghrib Rule? Or was that just
I remember reading about that. Yeah.
Is it that you can't leave the house after Maghrib or something?
Yeah.
Is that it?
Be in the
mom
house
used to
by
tell me about
Maghrib.
that.
We grew up like that. You gotta be in the house by Maghrib.
Yeah.
Maghrib Rule. Unless you go
Be
to
in
work.
the house.
That's a different
Close
thing.
the doors. Close the windows
doors.
at
We had
Maghrib.
that in Africa too. We had
the
the
Maghrib
Maghrib Rule
Rule?
in Africa.
Everybody has the Maghrib Rule.
Okay.
Yeah, we
so
have
the
Maghrib Rule in
Maghrib
Africa too. Yeah, it's like you have to
so
be
all
home.
of that existed, and so it's just like you kind of in a wedge, I think, oftentimes, and it may be harder to find your place. I still haven't found mine really in my community, to be honest.
Me either.
But because despite the fact that I have had some wonderful experiences with Desi and Middle Eastern Muslims, there still is the cultural mindset that I'm exposed to when I go to Iftar, for example, or when I go to Jumu'ah, for example, right? Nzima, it's just like.
Yes, I agree. Those micro traumas and
Microaggressions.
yes, I find myself writing about it, and I have a few pieces that I haven't really published because I thought that I would get pushback. People read how I felt, during it's supposed to be a wonderful time during Ramadan and Iftar, and how you bring food and try to celebrate, and then, you know, in a community and your food is to the left, to the right, and no one no one is sharing it out. It's like, and I feel like, well, we're gonna waste my food. So you don't feel included. And if you come with your Black or Afrocentric swagger or whatever, but you all, you know, properly covered or whatever, I find that there is a lot of pushback. And it's like, oh, sister, did you see these rack of clothes over here? And I'm like, do you realize what you're saying to me? And so I feel like I supposed to have all of the patience, all of the grace, and all of the smiles, and just dismiss what has been given to me, you know. And I
But
and so
why don't you publish those things though? What?
Right. Yeah, publish them.
Why aren't you say it with your chest?
That's so tough.
yes.
You help somebody, you need to publish it, because it's like usually when you read somebody a story, it's like you relate to it. It's like we're all Black, we all have different experiences, but that's a reason I find comfort in reading and writing, because like
Yes.
I learned something new, especially books like Juwayriyah. It's like I found so much, I related so much to her work, even like, you know, Layla, I like Nasheed's work. You know, it's like we all like have different sister Nahima, Zakiyyah. It's like we all have different experiences, but at the same time, you're like, oh my God, I had that same thing happen to me too. You know, it's like you have to help somebody else with their healing. Like writing is healing. You have to publish it.
Yes, it
Publish
is. You know, and I got,
I
you know,
went through
so
that.
when I thought about it, when I spoke to someone about it, or it was an older sister, and she was talking about, you know, calling out someone else's faults and complaints, and then I got all caught up in the idea. Oh, so now I'm, you know,
God, that
big...
faults and complaints.
Yeah.
Faults.
Yeah, because if you don't publish it, you feel gaslighted.
So maybe if I, and so I said, well, what if I, you know, when I'm invited to the table with some of my, you know, with women of foreign sisters of color, and I'm not bringing something they're used to eating, you know, but there's a lot of us there, and you shift it to, it's more than just the food or the clothing. It's, you know, it just seemed like you just not invited to the table.
That's the reason I wrote a cookbook. I'm
It's
not a chef. That's the reason I wrote a cookbook about my food, because it's like, you know, people are always, you know, putting down your food. Why don't they have this in your culture? Why don't they? It's like, and I'm like, you know, why do it's like, you know, you face these microaggression in every way, even in food too. That's the reason I wrote my, and the book is doing well because it's unique. You know, so from all my books, Alhamdulillah, that's a book that sells mostly actually, subhanAllah. That in one of my my journals, like, you know, my hijab journals. It's like, because people are like, oh my gosh, this is what I've been looking for a long time. It's like, you know, how can I explain to people that we also have our kind of breads, we also have our kind of soups, we also have our kinds of breakfast, we also have our own dessert, because, you know, it's like, it doesn't have to be as elaborated as French cuisine or as European cuisine, but we have all these and they different. And it's like, you have to publish it. Seriously, you have to publish it, because, you know, somebody else will see it. But somebody else will see.
If it's your experience, tell your experience.
Nobody else will connect with it.
Yeah, technically, like when I publish, you know, I have a few books, and I'm talking about ladyhood experiences, and, you know, as being a wife, a mother, you know, talking about loss, my, you know, or past relationship before I became Muslim and after. And I'm, you know, so it's every kind of ladies. It shows a woman being a multifaceted. But when it came to that and I received that, I remember even before I published my first book, I even came to Juwayriyah. I was like, I have some poetry, and I don't know if I publish this, what would happen? People gonna say I'm less Muslim-esque, you know, that I can't come to the party now. Is she really, you know, is she violating things?
Well, why you want to come to a party where they're gonna put your food to the back anyway?
Exactly. Exactly. So, well, okay, you asked for it. It's gonna come out. It's gonna come out raw road.
We'll be waiting. But do we do that? Do we do, as authors? Do we do that?
Do we edit?
We put these filters on ourselves. I know, Naima, that's one issue that's occurring in Great Britain among Black Muslim creatives, is that the dominant culture kind of not only puts these braces on them that discourages them from expressing their creativity, but are we doing that to ourselves as well?
Mm.
May I jump in?
Yeah, this was the conversation.
Yeah, I think what I'm seeing is a lot of it is a numbers game. And if you look at us numerically, I mean, you can't compare the Black British Muslim community with the African American community in terms of size. So the market for African American Muslim stories is way, way, way bigger than Black British Muslim stories specifically. And again, in the UK, the Black British community is not homogenous in any way. So you've got African Muslims who have come from Africa, so have their own experience. Then you've got Caribbeans, usually reverts, not all the time, but usually reverts, sometimes first generation. And they've got their own different culture, different background, obviously different history. And even in their lived experience of being British, differences. The Blackness remains, unfortunately, within the Muslim community, because as far as Desis are concerned or Arabs are concerned, you're all Black. It doesn't make a difference to me whether you're Caribbean or African. I don't know any different. You're just Black. So what I'm seeing in the community is I'm seeing definitely a rise in the strident nature of the Black Muslim identity, and it's being pushed by the millennials. That's what I am seeing. It's being backed now by my generation. Organizations are getting involved. Older people in the community, myself, Ismaili South, Habiba Kande, he's a millennial actually. But we're kind of jumping on the train. But people like Hafsa Dabiri, people like Sisters in Business, Habiba Kande, Mustafa Briggs, Baraka Boys. There's a lot of kind of assertion of a proudly Black and Muslim British identity. And that is showing up in content. Now, the content they choose is not usually books, but it can be, but it's not normally. Yeah, exactly. Not yet, right? So obviously, Brother Habib, mashallah, he's doing his books. Hafsa has written her book for children, which, the main character is a Black Muslim girl character. But because there's so many intersections there, because the main character, yes, she's Black, but she's a Muslim and she wears hijab and she wants to play sport and she's learning this really important lesson about inshallah. And I think that those are the types of stories that tend to do well in the wider community, because the fact that she's Black is incidental. It's not the main aspect of the story. It's not the focus of the story. And the journey that she goes on is not to do with her identity as a Black Muslim girl. It's that she is Black, her family is Black, but the story is about her wanting to play basketball with her hijab and learning about inshallah.
Islam.
Say again?
Islam.
Her deen, yeah, exactly, her Islam. And I think that's what I'm seeing with a lot of other independent authors, is that they will make a stylistic choice, obviously because of wanting to represent. They will use, they'll tell the illustrator that this is a Black character, or this is a Black family. The story is not usually about the Blackness. The story is itself a very universal Muslim story, but the authors will start to make choices about, I want there to be a Black girl. I want her to have Afro hair. Do you understand? And I think the Muslim community is starting, we now have many, many more books featuring Black Muslim characters, and being published by not just independents, but sort of individuals, but also independents. So I think it's growing slowly, but again, that's what I'm seeing from the outside. I don't know whether there are specific experiences that you're referring to, but I'd love to know more about that.
Well, it's two things. Okay. Well, the first is it Black Muslim characters or Muslim characters that are Black?
That is what it is. That's what it is. That's what it, because it's also, yeah. Go on. Sorry.
And also, it's similar in the United States. I mean, we've had to continually have the distinction between African American and Black. Okay, African American, once again, for the people in the back, okay, are Black people with a heritage that started with enslavement here on the land that became the United States. It is often integrated, often integrates also Black people from the Caribbean, because the only thing that's stopping the difference from us is the stop a lot of the times. But that's the African American experience, okay?
Yeah.
And then there's the Black experience. So like you said, first generation diaspora Black people, second generation, and so on. We have our challenges. There's places where we have solidarity. There's also places there are challenges because there are cultural distinctions. Now, when we're talking about Black Muslim authorship in the United States, that includes all of that. So that includes Papatia and her books, because like her book, Mistress of the Spice, I can't help but smile whenever I say that book.
Yeah.
You
It's
know,
spicy because the lady likes the spicy one. That's why.
Layla likes the spicy ones.
She likes it spicy.
But no, it tells a very unique experience as well, though.
Yeah,
It
yeah,
tells
yeah.
a very
Yeah.
interracial couple experience as well. And so it's a part of all that. So it's a part of Black Muslim authorship. So when you're talking about the UK, all right, I think that maybe there is just like our traditions, our heritage is more extensive. Okay. So we're at this point in that cultural timeline, and here comes
I agree. And just really quickly to make this point as well, is that in terms of the timeline, you'll notice that within the Muslim community, we always start with the children's books and we populate the picture books first. Then you guys know already the number of books for middle grade, YA, and adult, is minuscule compared to picture books, right? And so when you start to get into middle grade, into YA, into adult fiction, that's now when you will start to see the actual identity of the character becoming part of the story, because it has to. It's like that collection of stories at Once Upon an Eid. And the first story, I think it's Jamila's story, is set, it's Jamila Bigelow. Yes.
Bigelow, yeah.
Yes, Jamila Bigelow.
She has a couple more in the book, but
yeah.
But
that's the first one. And my daughter read it. And obviously, if you haven't read it, then it's about an African-American girl who goes to Gambia. And there's an Eid, isn't it, in Gambia? And
no, I think they hear about that. Part of the family is from originally from Gambia.
No, they go back to Gambia. In the story, they go back to Gambia, and there's like an altercation between the cousin.
Yeah, the two sisters.
Yeah. But anyway, my point is that it's the kind of story you're talking about, Layla, which is rooted in the experience and life of the author. And is the kind of story that probably she never saw before and is not really told. My daughter, whose father is Ghanaian, loved that story. She absolutely loved it because there are certain cultural markers that can come through in a middle grade story like that. The hair, just mentioning the hair, or
greasy food.
Yeah, the food, these types of details, whereas in picture books you're limited. You've got 1,000 words, you've got pretty much one message, and you need to give that message, so I think, as you say, the more we in the UK start writing for older age groups, firstly, we're not doing much of it at all.
I mean,
and then you will start to see those stories start to fan out, to now start to explore different elements of the cultural experience as well.
And that's why I didn't want to wait, though. I didn't want to wait to that. I wanted to do it out of the beginning with my children's book. I'm like, no, I'm not waiting that long. That's too long for it to go be screwed up by society. That's the reason I started with my chickens.
Well, I mean, you also have like books like Bashir and the Amazing Being Pie.
Yes.
Which is very much about the African American Muslim experience in the form of a children's book. You have Ali. Is it Ali's Big Dream?
Yasin's
Big Dream. Thank you. Yasin's Big Dream.
You should know this.
Okay. So, which very much speaks to this whole idea of reinforcing to Black children that you could be anything that you want to be. Okay.
Can I say? Papatia, you said something earlier that you didn't know what Black was until you came to the US. Like that, I can't even imagine that. Even Naima, she said that that it's one big melting pot. Regardless of your color, you're like one person. Like nobody, like color is not, I can't even imagine that. So I guess when I write, I'm writing from the Black experience, not a Muslim writing from to be Black. I'm writing from Black being Muslim for me, because that's all. Because I've grew up in that. That's all I know is growing up in this society where my Black is the first thing people see.
Yeah, see, that's the thing that sometimes if we're not really careful, Black American, African American, and African clash a lot because we don't understand, like, because from us, like when we're over there in Africa, everybody is Black, so nobody really, it's not really something to distinct. It's not really distinction. That's not really distinctive.
It doesn't have the same meaning.
Exactly. It's not in that. So we actually focus on nationality. Where are you from? Are you from Nigeria? Okay, because that's how we, like, you know, how we see people. You're from Nigeria, okay, should we trust you or not? Are you from Mali? Because it's more about nationality.
Even your tribe as well.
Exactly,
like,
it's about your tribe. What tribe are you from?
I was gonna say tribe too.
Yeah, exactly. It's about tribe and, like, you know, caste and stuff like that. But when you come here, you become Black because, you know, all that is back there. Then you know that, oh, the dynamics are a little different here. And if you don't have, you know, if you don't read or if you don't get closer to other community, you don't understand these nuances, you know. Like, for example, it wasn't until I met Layla that I knew that I found out that there was a difference between African American and, like, in somebody with my background. And I aggressively accepted the way she explained to me, to the point that now I correct people when somebody says, "Oh, African American," I'm like, "No, your ancestors were not slaves, so you're not."
I had,
you know, and no, let me finish.
A woman say to me, "I'm African American."
Even
I was born in Africa, and here I am in America.
No, I'm like, it's not the same meaning. It's like when you say biscuit. And when you say chips and fries, in the UK they say chips, here they say fries. It's the same thing. Like, you know, like I reviewed this book from this guy from Tunisia, like a children's book. And then you know, the book, the girl, he's from Tunisia, and she says she's African American because she's naturalized in the US. I'm like, I told the publisher, I'm like, please make these men understand that it's like the character is not African American. Her ancestors were not slaves. He has to say North African, North African American. He can use all that, like he not says, you know what I mean? It's like the distinction, you know. But anyway, that's the reason reading all these books and all these events help, because when we come together, we read each other's book, we know the nuances, you know.
Well, African American,
we won't clash too much.
African American is very important distinctual identity based on the fact that you can say where you're from. You know, we can't say where we're from. And so that's why
I wanted to chime in on that. I was just listening to her and I was thinking their ancestors, all of our ancestors, they all was enslaved, and I don't want to go into semantics, but that is your relative. So if someone eons ago was brought to America, that was your ancestor that was enslaved. So your ancestors, our ancestors together was enslaved. So if
no.
Do you? I mean, I'm thinking about, but the experience of the experience and the trauma and the experience. The DNA, if the DNA pool is the same, but the experience that make you the African American would be the separate experience. Because so if okay, say if I was a mother and I was born in, like you said, Nigeria, and someone took two of my sons and left me with two sons. Two of my sons, generations from now, that's raised up, that's lived in generations in America, enslaved, that'll still be that mother who lost two sons in America. We will still be DNA connected. But the experience is the experiences that separate, or people identify as different. That's why we still related. That's we still, you know, is the experience that separates us. And I think that when you was talking, I was thinking, wow, because we don't say that's Italian writers, that's Irish writer. We say, oh, the white gays. So now they have a big umbrella, and then every time they feel like their xenophobia or radar is going down, they invite another group to enlarge their pot. So you remember Irish people wasn't white, Italian people used to not be white, and then they're going to invite someone else to make their white space bigger.
But
And
among white people, they make those distinctions.
Yeah, they do. They do.
Among
Sister
white
Naima
people,
wants to say
do.
something. I think Sister Naima
among
wants to say
white people,
something.
you're a swarthy Italian. Okay, you're an alcohol-ridden Irish person, and everything. Like, it's only when it's against minorities that they call
yes,
that
yes.
So that's right. Yeah, Naima.
And we use it too.
Yeah, no, I don't want to get derailed, and I know that.
Yeah. I was just thinking about how to make it kinship.
I just
say what you want to say.
No, I just wanted to say that the thing is, Africa is a very big place, as obviously, yeah, and is so diverse. So while it sounds plausible that we all had ancestors that were enslaved, I think you'll find that factually that is not correct.
Well, that's true, because if you look at East Africa and different, it's predominantly
East Africa
West
got their
Africa.
own issues. They got their own issues with the Arab slave trade. So we're not going to go there. But for example, I remember I wrote a piece about this because we went to the Slavery Museum in Liverpool. My ancestors are Zulu, so South Africa, way away from what was happening on the West Coast. Yeah, because West Coast and East Coast were being exploited. We know this. Central Africa is questionable. Southern Africa, not involved. There was other things happening at that time historically. But Yani, it's a pedantic point. I don't want to kind of nitpick. But I think what I wanted to say, really, that my final point was that I think we feel somehow that our experience as Muslims defines us. And to a certain extent, it does. But the thing is that Islam is not a culture per se. It exists in a cultural context. So, if there's, for example, Khalid Hosseini, his characters are Muslim. Of course, they're not Islamic, but his characters are Muslim, and they navigate a lot of the things that, Muslims navigate: a belief in God, a belief in hellfire and imams and Quran and stuff like that. But it's an Afghani cultural context. So many of us are in a situation where the cultural context of our literature, our Muslim literature, is a Desi cultural context. And I think that that's why sometimes, if people are not clear, maybe people are listening and saying, well, why do you need to have, why would you even think about needing other voices within the Muslim space? It's because if you read a book that seems nominative, is it nominative? What's the word I'm looking for?
Nominally?
Normative. If you read a book that the people consider to be just a Muslim novel, it's not just a Muslim novel. It's usually a Desi novel, and it's Muslims in it, right? Because that's their cultural context. And you can't have characters that don't have a cultural context. Like even Zakiyyah, I'd say Zakiyyah's novels for me are the most Islamic. They're on the most Islamic end if we're looking at it, kind of on some kind of continuum. But even those characters have to have a cultural context. So there will be the mother who's Malaysian. It affects her character. It affects how she dresses, how she talks, the language that she uses. Maybe she's married to an African American. That brings out the richness of her character. We can't have two-dimensional Muslim characters in literature, because nobody is a two-dimensional Muslim. We all live in a three-dimensional context. So it isn't surprising, Layla, to your question, that there will be Muslims who will read Muslim literature and not see themselves there. And while they may appreciate the Muslimness of it, it doesn't resonate. Because you're talking about in-laws, and you're talking about going back home, and you're talking about biryani and all these things, which is fine because that's your culture. But it doesn't resonate with me. So as a Muslim, it's like, okay, cool, but I'm not getting it. Yeah, okay, it's fine, but it's not me. I don't see myself there. And there's so much that you haven't spoken about in this, because that's your cultural context, and I've got my own cultural context, even though we're all Muslim.
And there's also another added layer, right, Juwayriyah, of the fact that, yes, there is like this cultural overlay of dominant Desi and Middle Eastern cultural overlay that exists. And Middle Eastern culture is so complex in and of itself.
You see, in the UK, we don't even think about Middle Easterners at all when it comes to Muslim culture.
Oh, really?
UK, not
we
at all.
Can't help it.
Not at all.
We can't help it, because it's like, because when you're talking about
numerically,
first of all, it's what is occurring within Muslim culture itself, in the enclaves of Muslim culture themselves. But also when you're talking about writing and publishing, there is that dominant white culture and they're looking for a very specific thing.
Yeah.
Okay. And so a lot of times they want to make us two-dimensional. So they want that Daisy story, just exclusively that, and label it Muslim. Boom, pop, that's it. You know
You've
what I mean?
ticked that box. You've ticked that box.
Exotic.
Yes.
They
Where's
want
the
the
verse?
exotic
Yeah.
Muslim.
Yeah.
Yeah, right, Juwayriyah?
Exotic, that always sells. And so I feel that
They don't want to
the
accept the
exotic,
fact that African Americans have been practicing Islam here in America for what, almost
from the
since
beginning, from the beginning,
right.
no, from the
And
beginning.
They refuse to acknowledge that, and that's what I don't understand.
It's because the publishers are not interested in Muslim stories, guys. Like, let's not get it twisted. They don't care. It's not about the fact that these characters are Muslim. It's the fact that they are of a particular ethnicity. They're Asian or they're Arab. That sells for that. It ticks that box, ethnic literature.
The exotic will always sell.
Exactly. And now, if they wanted Black authors, then they would not be looking at those stories. They'd be looking for Black authors. Now, the question, and we always have this conversation, Layla, is they can't wrap their head around. And even the Black reading public, are they ready for a Black novel that's about Muslims?
That's the point.
That's not Black culture. Like, that's
Black culture. I think we all, can I just say this,
But
please?
so many of us have who are Black, have Muslims in our family.
Yes,
true, but they're not supportive of Black Muslims. And we don't talk about this a lot. We often talk about either the white gaze, and I said this a lot. If you've read just, the Desi books, or you're familiar with Desi Muslim literature, or you're familiar with Arab Muslim literature, you don't know Muslim literature. But here is the issue. As a Black Muslim, wherever you are in the diaspora, Black people do not often support, accept, or validate Muslims, even though we are in their families. I'm also a second generation Muslim. My grandmothers on both sides were Christians, but will the church support a Black Muslim author? No, they will not. And that's even if you are in Egypt. You can be in Egypt. You can be in Nigeria. You can be in the UK. Christians do not support Christians, Jews, Black people outside of Muslim culture often do not support Black Muslims. And that has been the issues because Malcolm X was remember when El-Hajj Malik Shabazz, rahimahullah ta'ala, was killed, who supported him here in America? Who was supporting him? Non-Muslims, Blacks did not support him. Very few supported him when he died. He died alone.
He died with
that is the reality.
He died in a Japanese American woman's lap. That's where he died. A Muslim Japanese American woman's lap.
No, I'm talking about Al-Hajj Malik Shabazz, Malcolm X.
What you said is correct. Because because of my family. Oh, sorry.
Because there are layers to it, and like Amani said, both you and Amani speak to those two layers. There are plenty of Muslim authors in urban fiction, for instance, okay, they don't bring their Muslimness to the forefront. Sometimes they integrate aspects of it. That's why there are a lot of terms and things like that that are familiar in urban fiction, a lot of Muslim terms that are familiar in urban fiction, just like they are in hip hop. Okay, so just like hip hop and comedians, okay,
like Dave Chappelle is Muslim.
Authors, there are Black Muslim authors in urban fiction, but they don't highlight that. And I think what happens is that's what Amani is speaking to. But I think what happens is like when Umm Juwayriyah is speaking to is that what happens when we decide to assert that? What happens if we decide, I've had readers mad at me because they didn't like the fact that I didn't show how the character in my first book was Muslim. I didn't show that. She wasn't Muslim. It was like I wasn't allowed to write that. I wasn't allowed to write like non-Muslim characters. There is ultimately this friction that does occur, and that's Naima's question: are Black people ready for Black Muslim authors?
If I may add, If I may add, so I'm not in the fiction space, I'm in the nonfiction space, and I specifically deal with self-help. But even in that space, the first thing is we are not often apt to tell our stories anyway. So most of our stories include some type of pain, include some type of trauma, and we may not have done the necessary work to be able to even begin to tell the story. If we have done the necessary work to tell the story, now who is going to buy this book, right? Who is going to relate to the fact, who is going to check that box? I said this literally Friday, I taught a class, and it was basically saying that, you know, some people, you could buy the book from off of my website, not without my hijab, but buying the book from off of my website, there's a person that's behind that, me, that sees the book, has to autograph it, and now knows that, you may need this book because this is what you're going through, right? So people don't buy it from off of my website, but I'll see them and they'll say, oh, I purchased your book on Amazon, right? Because they're going through the issue, they're experiencing this trauma, whatever the case may be, but they can't let someone know that. So to speak to that point, I think Sister Naima, she, started to, go on this track, and then she asked the question, is that, are we ready? No, we're not. Right. And so we want these traditional publishers. So I've self-published all 3 of my books. The reason being is because a traditional publisher is not ready to publish the book that I am writing, because I'm coming from, first of all, the Muslim perspective. I am coming from, my Blackness, I'm coming from that perspective. And then there's trauma, and all these different things converging into one. And so no, we're not ready. And so I think one of the questions that we were asking today is is for us to come together and assert what it is that we need. And so I think it's about us having forums like this, and it's about us on our own platform saying, hey, I do know what's going on, you know what I mean? And, these are the things that we need to talk about in order to be able to, inshallah, heal, right? And also to be able to move forward, inshallah. So we don't have, these other cultures, telling us what we should be thinking about, what we should, the way we should be thinking, inshallah.
But I think that is also a crossroads. There's a layering, because how much of it is that we're not ready because we are stuck in deciding how it is we want to express our message as writers. Okay, because you do have genres, and yeah, the great thing about self-publishing is that we get to create our own platform and drive our narratives, and that's very, very important, because you're not going to get into traditional publishing. Just like we had a children's book author who, her story originally started with a Black Muslim boy's kufi, but the book was published as a non-Black Muslim girl's hijab. Okay, so oftentimes you're not going to get it until it starts making money, but that's a whole other thing. So we get to drive those narratives. We have that, but are we as writers stuck in neutral because we have this messaging on one side, we have this messaging on other, but we're Black on both sides, but have we really decided how it is we want to navigate all of that, and then in order to express ourselves and drive our message? Some authors struggle a lot with that. Yes, Naima.
I've got to jump off, but in answer to your question, I think that the reality is that there's always a consequence for your choice, right? And at the end of the day, I know that as a woman in niqab, I will never win Miss United Kingdom. It will never happen. It's okay. It's right. Yeah, the beauty contest.
Some rhinestones around.
That's not my space. Yeah, that's not my lane. That's not my lane. And I've made that choice. There are other avenues that are probably closed to me due to the fact that I practice Islam the way that I do. But that's okay. That's my choice. That's the lane that I've chosen. You will see that there are authors who have chosen the quote unquote mainstream lane. When you're in the mainstream lane, you will go in there and you will understand that it is a marketing decision. It's a commercial decision. And if you're going to pitch any ideas, you need to make sure that they are marketable, because that's really all they care about. Can I market this? Can I sell this? Can I package this up somehow? Or can I tick a box with this? That's how they think, and that's their lane. At the end of the day, that's their job. They're supposed to think like that. So if I'm happy to play that game, I understand the rules of the game, I make them work to my advantage, and I do my best in that game. And that's fine. No shade on anyone. Someone else may say, I don't care about that game. I'm not interested in that game. I want to create the stories that I want to see. And I know that there's an audience out there. It may not be big enough for you guys, but it might be big enough for me. And so I'm going to take my own path, and that's going to be my lane. Now, are you going to win a Pulitzer? Probably not. Are you going to win the Coretta Scott King Award? No, you are not. But you could do very well in your lane. And so it's like, I find that sometimes as Muslim creatives, not just Black Muslim, but Muslim creatives in general, understand this, our industries are still fledgling, especially Islamic creative industries. They're tiny babies. There's hardly any money in them. There's hardly any investment in them. There are no structures for, kind of evaluating and giving awards and even commenting, for God's sake, on what's happening in the scene. Like, it's not there. Yeah, we're still in the very early developmental stage. So if a person decides that I am going to work on my craft and I'm going to serve the Islamic community, you make a choice knowing what that means. And for me personally, it means shutting out the noise of what could be. If I was recognized by The Guardian, if I was recognized by the New York Times, if I was on that bestseller list, if I got that award, if I got that endorsement, if I got that agent, maybe this is what could happen for me. Now, I made a choice and I need to be at peace with that. And I will excel in my lane. That's just the way that I see it. And I find that people are most discontented when they try to have the best of both worlds. I just don't believe that is possible. That's just me, though.
Not yet. Okay, because if you look at the African American literary tradition, applauded authors were derided.
Very true.
And we've created
there's a journey.
Americans have created entire genres. Okay,
Yeah.
so it definitely is something that's possible. Like you said, it's very much in the fledgling stage. The thing about it is that you can't prioritize those things at this fledgling stage.
Yeah.
You can't prioritize the Pulitzer. You shouldn't care, about it, but if you do care about it, like you said, you have a choice to make. If I feel like I need to be recognized by these certain entities, or I need acceptance from a big publisher or something like that, there's nothing wrong with that. If you make that choice as an author, but that those, like you said, those come with consequences. But for authors who have decided, well, you know what, yeah, we're in this fledgling thing, but we're going to make it our own and we're going to drive it forward and everything like that.
Yeah.
That's great. But I feel like when it comes down to the very writing itself and the content itself, are we stuck? Because we're Black on both sides, and that means we're in the middle. So as an author, when it comes down to when I'm sitting in front of that keyboard and I have my timer on and I'm getting ready to write the story and flesh the story out, am I stuck as to whether or not I'm going to gravitate more towards this content-wise because I know that more readers will want to read that? Or am I going to gravitate towards this content-wise because I know these readers will be more comfortable with the content itself? So are we stuck?
I'm going to say, yeah, I actually just experienced that with my book. So not, fiction at all, but I got stuck because Pray and Grow Rich is not a unique title. Pray and Grow Rich is a title that's been used multiple times. But when you look for the books about, finances and faith, it's mostly Christians who have written this book, Pray and Grow Rich. And so when I saw, the title and, it spoke to a project that I wanted to do anyway, I was like, Pray and Grow Rich, but from the Muslim perspective. And where I got stuck is exactly where you said, was when I started to go into the voice of trying to be inclusive and trying to say, okay, I want to, speak to, the Christian person or the Jewish person or, someone from another faith tradition. Like I almost spent 2 weeks where I wasn't writing, and I wasn't writing because I was not speaking in my authentic voice. Like those inshallahs and mashallahs, I was like, all right, let's take these out and let's try to, I'm being real, right?
Girl, so I got some true stories because I had too much of the vernacular. The readers did not like that. They were like, it's good, but I didn't feel like I didn't want to have to keep on looking back at the glossary.
Mashallah. But you know, I got stuck, and I got stuck because it was not my authentic voice, and it wasn't who I was, and it wasn't what I wanted for the project. If you want to, you know, talk about faith and finances from a Christian perspective, go look up, you know, the
You'll
other
find
7 you know, books that have already been written. But if you want it from a Muslim perspective, there are very few, and even fewer written by women, and even fewer. So I talked about, you know, my Black experience. So take the Muslim away, but my Black experience with faith and finances growing up here in New York City, although I was Muslim, right? So, you know, I put that first, and then I added on the layer, hey, I'm Muslim. And, you know, this is what we go through, you know, from a Muslim perspective with faith and with, you know, finances, and how we deal with it within, you know, Muslim families. So, you know, I did get stuck. And so I think, you know, this conversation is really about authenticity, and us just being authentic to ourselves, and not necessarily trying to follow, you know, the path of what other people are doing.
We're trailblazers. We're not path followers. Yes, Umm Juwayriyah.
Yeah, to speak to that, you know, my first novel came out that way back, dinosaur age, you know,
Guys with mustard
2006.
seed.
2006, and I was traditionally published by worked with the late great Huida Delgado, who was a Hispanic Latina, white Hispanic Latina from Arizona, who started the Muslim Writers Publishing back in 2000, which was along with the Islamic Writers Association, that was headed by Sister Pamela Taylor and so many other people. But when I first signed with them, you know, urban fiction was not heard of. And it was like, you know, with the review board and the editorial board, what is that? Who is your audience? And we had so many conversations about who is this reading audience that you are actually writing this book for. And I think, you know, where we are today, it's beautiful to see, because I was so sure then, Alhamdulillah, and I feel, you know, fully supported that, you know, you write to your people. Going back to what Zakiyyah said, I do write. I do feel like I am writing to a particular person, and that person is myself. I represent me, but there are so many of my sisters across the United States, across Canada, across the UK, who understand the experience that I've had as a second generation Muslim. And we're not a small, you know, group of people. We are marketable. We are bankable. I think one thing, I was talking to Nzima Hutchings, who is a Muslim author. She's, you know, received so many different awards, and she writes in the mainstream. And she told me when I first signed, she was like, you know, being in the mainstream is good, but at the same time, you're not able to define yourself. You know, you're always writing to somebody else's decisions in your market. So she was like, if you want to write and create this urban Muslim genre, stay on that path. Just keep pushing. Just keep pushing, you know? And so now here we are in 2021. And I feel that there's so many other, you know, Muslim authors in that lane, like, you know, Nasheed, Jaxon, and Zara J, and Amani Jabbar, who have come after me. And it's like, it's a beautiful thing, because I knew back then, you know, that we were here. We needed our own books, because when I was growing up, you know, there was nothing to read, you know. We had the Amelia Bedelias and we had the babysitters clubs, but there was nothing for Mediums. There was nothing for Asias. There was nothing for Sophias. There was nothing for Khadijas, but we're everywhere. We're everywhere. I feel like Black Muslim women, we carry this deen a lot.
And you know, it's
a lot. We carry this deen. We are the flag bearers. And for someone to tell me and look me in my face and say that my story can't sell, it's like, bet. I'll see you at the end of the day. I'm still
Watch
here.
me.
2021, Alhamdulillah. You know, let's get it. Let's start this race and let's keep moving. Let's keep working.
Yes.
Yeah.
I just want to say thank you. Your book with the little Muslim Lima, little girl, the pink with a little crown. You know, I have grandbabies. They love that book. We need
My girls love it too.
pictures with little brown Muslim boys and girls on the cover. And I think we don't understand how important that is. And I have to thank you for that, you know, and I have that book is on my piano bench right now. Because my grandkids come over and my youngest, she grabbed that book all the time and she sits down over by the piano bench as if it's like a part of the music sheet or something, but she always look at it and play with it. And I think there's a connection that she has with me, with my head, you know, when I'm wearing my hijab or whatever. I'm not always in it, but I'm just saying, you know, it's just, I think that is a beautiful thing, and the imagery is powerful. And what I notice a lot of times when I see authors who write children's book, they'll put like flowers on it, and they don't realize. And I understand about the images and stuff, but they'll put flowers on it. But and then when you see other Muslim books, they have little I don't
Animals.
know, say that Arabic or whatever.
Animals.
That's a good point, because for my children's books, I decided as a parent of an autist that it's important that they have the imagery. If you don't show eyes or you don't show a particular face, children who are exceptional, they're not going to understand that story. They don't have those abilities that neurotypical children have. But and Layla will tell you, we've been talking about my next novel's cover and things like that. For my adult Muslim fiction, for my adult Muslim fiction, I don't put images on my adult Muslim fiction. That's just me. That's my lane. But for children who are still, and I'm a teacher and educator, so it's like, for children, they need to see images because everybody's learning at different levels. People have different abilities. They need to see. And I've made that, and I've talked to many different scholars about that, and it's like we make exceptions for people with different abilities, and I think that's really important. It's something that I've spoken to other Muslim children authors about, because every Muslim child does not have the same abilities, and we have to be inclusive.
All right, okay, you got it. I'm gonna write a book. I'm gonna write a children's book.
Honestly,
we need more brothers to write children's books.
Yeah,
honestly, even a lot of Muslim children will gravitate towards one as opposed to the other. There may be.
I taught first grade for about 4 years, and the ones with the images and spatial expressions, they just always gravitate more towards that.
Yeah, because you make those they have an ability to make those emotional connections because they see the emotion in ways that when you're writing like adult fiction, you have to describe all of that stuff. But with children's books, they need to see it because you're not going to go into those in-depth descriptions. So we have a comment from the audience. Assalamu alaikum. I'm so sad to see this great series of panels wrap up. You'll see us next year, inshallah. And someone asked the name of the Indonesian horror film, Munafiq.
Oh,
it's
wow. That's a big wow. That's a serious, that's a heavy hitting title.
And you didn't know that was going to be scary?
Heavy hitting yeah. That's a scary one.
Because I remember I've been watching horror films since I can remember, because I had older brothers. So I've been watching horror films since I can remember. Texas Massacre, all of that stuff. And so I just didn't expect it to hit me the way that it did when he was reading that Quran and Sallallahu Alaihi Nabi and all of that stuff. And that thing was still going. I was like,
the Munafiq is worse than the Kuffar. Wow.
Yes.
That's
that it's a deep movie. I'm telling you right now. It's a deep movie because it has the sheikh, the town sheikh that everyone follows, who is actually murderous and rapacious. But okay, Munafiq 2, it's on Netflix, and there's a Munafiq 1 as well.
Oh.
And actually, there's a whole line of Indonesian horror films. It's
but the thing is, I like that because somebody said earlier that I think it was Naima. She said that a lot of millennials are starting to deal with Black and being Muslim, but they're not writing books. I think it's beautiful because it's a start, and I think that's where we are as books, because people not reading no more. But these books, we know that books become stories. Books become strips. So we need to keep writing so that in the future, when they're looking for something to write about or make a movie about, these books are available for them. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Keep writing. Right.
Absolutely. Got to expand the canon.
Juwayriyah has a book that's coming out. Is Prayer and Growing Rich, Pray and Grow Rich, is that out? That's out, right? Isn't that out?
That's what's out.
That's
It's
been
out
really-
now. It's available for 99 cents. It's available on Amazon. So you can get the ebook now. The physical book will
Book
be out
fair.
March 7th. Yes.
Book fair.
Physical book March
Check out
7th,
the book
inshallah.
fair, a lot of 99-cent book grabs. And actually, there's a group of Muslim romance writers. I've been trying to get Nasheed to do it, but his schedule won't allow him, that are coming out with Ramadan romances. So that's going to be very interesting.
Love in Ramadan.
Love in Ramadan. And the title of my book is Ramadan Groom. That's all I'm saying. And so it's really, really exciting. Well, because in the romance industry, there's a lot of like that's one of the things that happens, that you have a lot of holiday romances. And we've had these discussions, like the other authors and I, we've had this discussion where we really want to center Ramadan because, you know, you have these holiday romances and everything like that. That's a thing among romance readers. And so what is it we're going to put in it? You know, how deep do we go? What are some of the things we're going to write about and everything like that? It was actually a very extensive discussion because they were like, Layla, no, Layla, no.
Right.
Fine balance. That's a real
They're like,
balance
no,
here.
Layla, no, not in Ramadan, no. So I had
Well, Layla, tell them to read it after they're done with the Quran for the day. Like it's like, okay, today I'm gonna, yeah, seriously.
a way of doing it.
No, they need to finish your Quran reading for the day and then read it.
Your Quran reading for today. As a matter of fact, that's what I think I'm gonna put in the front. Don't read this if you haven't read your Quran yet.
Yeah, so read your
like
Quran
that.
for the day first, and then now you can read that. Your target, reach your daily target of Quran first.
And we
Yes,
also
yes.
wonderful anthology. The next Black Muslim Reads anthology will be Black Muslim poets, right, Nzima?
Yes, come on. We need some
That's
submissions,
awesome.
y'all. I know y'all have some poetry.
Yeah. Who was? Well, you definitely have some because you said there was some that you were afraid, that you were concerned about.
Oh, I'm gonna come with this Black on both sides.
Front and center. Umm Juwayriyah is a poet. Nasheed is a poet. So, you know, we're going to get this together. We're going to get it going because it is very important. I think that poet, you know, in the Black Muslim Reads anthology, we did include poetry. We talked about it. We decided, you know, it really deserves its own space, its own place, because there is that Black on both sides in all your creative execution, including poetry. So how does that end up? What do you see when poets have that liberty to really express whatever it is they want and express both sides when they want to? I mean, I think that authors, Black Muslim authors, many Black Muslim authors, we're very much navigating how it is we're going to do that. Nonfiction authors as well, because we just had the self-help panel. Self-help is very, very important. And it's just like, I want to read something from someone that's coming from my cultural experience. And that's going to integrate, you know, my deen, because you can't really compartmentalize it. If you're really engaged in deen, it means way of life, not religion. So it's just like it includes all of those layers. And so it's just like we're looking for all that from all the Black Muslim authors across backgrounds. I think that that's the beautiful thing, is that we as Black Muslim authors, we need to stabilize this platform because it is so multifaceted and it's so rich, and there's so much that you can get from it. It's just like, you know, interracial romance from the African American Muslim perspective, building on broken dreams, and if interracial romance based on African diaspora perspective and Mistress of the Spice. You have all the distinctions, and you want to read them, and you want to know them, and you want to embrace them, and you want to see yourselves in them, because in both those books,
I love Tarika, by the way. It's like I was like, did she write this for me, baby? I love Tarika.
What?
Your book, your second book, Open to Love. I really love. I love.
Tarika's Queen of the Castle.
Yeah, Queen of the Castle. I loved it more than the first one. Yeah.
Oh yeah, Tariq. Because it was just like, you know, there's a growing amount of Black Muslim women who are just like, yeah, nah, I'm good by myself. I'm all right. Okay. And then what happens when, you know, an Akil comes along and that's it, you know? Yeah. And so we need those books from Nasheed Jaxon. It's just like, you know, how jarring is that title, The Halal Nympho?
Oh, you know, it's jarring to the point that I'm reading it, but I'm hiding it from people.
People,
That edit.
people,
I have to abbreviate the title
That-
that I'm reading it, you know. Nasheed, come on, how can you do something like
no, but it's important. But the thing is, like, it's important because it's just like you get jarred by it, and he knew it. That's why he did it.
no,
It's
so not
intentional.
all of us can,
I'm
you know,
looking it
not
up
all of
now.
us are comfortable,
I'm looking
you know,
it up now.
telling everybody.
Yeah, or her justice too, because it's just like he gets to dive into the the African American Muslim male experience in ways that he has access, and he can describe things in ways that we can't because we're limited, because
Right.
we're not African American Muslim men living these cultural experiences. So it's just like, yeah, bring it all on. We want it all. That's where we are right now in the United States. It's just like, let's bring it all on and write this and write that and write this and write that. And you want to know one prime example that I can give that we're ready for it? Juwayriyah put A Stroke at Midnight on her blog of Black Muslim authors.
I saw that and I was
like, she put A Stroke at Midnight up there. Okay. All right. And because I've had to, I have certain covers, and like influencers and bloggers, they will choose based on their comfort level of those covers. I respect that. No hate or anything like that.
she's fine with it. That's fine.
But it's just like
not everybody can do that.
It's starting to become a thing where it's just like, there are now some that are just like, you know what, this is what this Black Muslim author wrote. Yes, that's the cover right there. That's the title, Halal and Info. Yeah, that's the cover that they have. And
but more importantly, I was saying that here's the thing that we have to also, I think we talked about it on another panel, is that, in our community, we will purchase books or watch movies or watch TV shows by non-Muslims who write on a plethora of different topics, and you will support them. So if that is the case, and we know it's the case,
Right.
we know they're buying romance, we know they're buying they're watching all type of TV shows.
They're watching Bridgerton.
They're watching Bridgerton. They're talking about it. They're tweeting about it. They're talking about these men. So then why not support the Muslims who are trying to do it in a way that is unique to them as well and share their experiences? We have to bring that. We have to call Muslims on their stuff. It's like, you
on
can
their duplicity, on their duplicity.
They because we know it's happening. I don't write that. That's not my lane.
Yeah.
But somebody else is.
Listen,
and so I'm putting it out there.
There have been people when it came to that cover that have been like, I had a friend that just was like, I have not said anything about your covers or anything like this, but yeah, you're going too far now. Yeah. and other Muslims that are like, oh, I love the cover, like that type of thing. Like, you have to decide what it is you want to do as an author. And like you said, it's just like, call Muslims on their nonsense, and just do you, and do whatever it is you're going to do, and whatever it is you feel comfortable with. And, really, I think that, it's very important that now we understand that now it's time to go on to the next level and talk about how we're going to execute these things, about content in particular, how we can polish and hone our craft and everything like that, which is what next year's Black Muslim Authors Conference is going to be about. What is it? Nuts and bolts?
Nuts and bolts.
Nuts and bolts. So we're going to now shift from conversations to more workshop-based content as well. So that's going to be really great. Aspiring authors, established authors. I'm going to be pulling these people in and be like, Halimah, we gotta do something.
Yeah, it's needed too. I think we need to collaborate together. We need to start working together. We need to learn how to work together. We need to learn how to communicate, and we got to pool our resources because we can flood the system. We can flood it and we can push it ourselves. We have the diversity is there, the content is there, the skill is there. We need to just push it forward, and we have to come together to do that.
Yeah,
I agree with you, Juwayriyah. I totally agree with you. I'm so glad, making dua now, inshallah, that, next year is a phenomenal success. And I almost feel like we need to start promoting now. As soon as this is over, start promoting, inshallah, for next year. I think it's excellent. But I think
already.
Yeah, man.
I learned from you, girl. I learned from you.
Alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah. You know, but like you said, you know, there's enough of us, you know, that can create the foundation, inshallah. And I think, you know, just think about, you know, we've had this discussion, Layla, the romance space, that's just not me, right? But
you've had me on.
But I've had you on because I understand the importance of what you're doing and your writing, and that, you know, there's a lane, you know, for what you are doing. And we should be talking about love as Muslims, right? We should be talking about, you know, love between the parents and whatever the case may be, right? And being truthful, you know, about it. But I think that how cool would it be? How amazing, inshallah, would it be to be able to get a romance novel from a Muslim? How cool would it be to get like a textbook from a Muslim, right? Like we you know, we run the gamut as, you know, to the topics and, you know, whatever we write about. How cool would it be for it to come from the Muslim space? And like you said, you know, Black, Muslim, woman, male, you know, all of those are you know, are
Diaspora,
necessary.
African American, first generation, second generation,
It's necessary.
African American, leaving the dean and stepping back in. All of it is so important because it's alive right now. It's alive right now. It's the thing that's happening right now. It is the culture right now. So we need that. We need the content. We need the messaging. We need the creatives, the people that Allah has blessed you with the talent. And I was a writing coach for a number of years in higher education, taught all my kids how to write. And it is not an easy thing. This is a blessing from Allah. That talent that you have to craft words, that's a blessing from Allah. Okay. And so it's like, you don't want to stuff it down and stuff it away. You want to express it because we need it. Okay. And not only does the culture need it, but future writers need it because they need to know that this is something that I can do. And how do I do that? I'm afraid to do it. I feel like I can't do it. We need each other, and we need to be able to take someone underneath our wing. Okay. Which, you know, sometimes that can be difficult because a lot of components of the writing process are necessarily commodified. You need those courses and everything like that, but you know, you can't do that for free. You know, it takes time to build that content. You have to pay for the platform and everything like that. So it's just like we need that balance of, okay, but you know, sometimes we also need to write, just like bring someone underneath our wing and just like, this is what you need to do. This is what you need to do. And collaboration can be so key. Collaboration can be so key. As soon as you come together, sit and collaborate, and very uncomfortable. Okay, because you'll clash.
It's like a marriage, you know. Working with people is like a marriage, you know.
They told gonna be like, nah, that's not happening. We can't. Nah, I got.
It's like a marriage.
Because I gotta bust this up. Wait a second. They doing something positive, productive. Nah. Can you believe that she asking you to do that? Can you believe that he had the nerve to do this? He gonna do that like automatically. Anything that's positive and productive and feasibility, he's right in there. He's here now, and that's why we seek refuge in Allah for him, because it's just like as soon as it gets to the next level, there's going to be a whole bunch of challenges that we encounter. But we want to, we depend on Allah so that we can be able to overcome those obstacles and get the next great Black Muslim thing out there. Okay, I have a lot of positive feedback on the panels from audience, by the way, including today's panel. I'm so glad that that's happening. And we're gonna wrap it up. We didn't get a chance to read everything, but you know what? Black History Month is ending. We're gonna wrap up our Black History Month, and we're gonna hit the ground running after Ramadan, because you gotta read your Quran first. And this time, inshallah, I'm going to try, like I'm going to have it in my mind, because that's one of the things that Halimah said at the first one. Like, you know, you got to get started on the next one. We were standing at NYU. It's like, what about the next one? What about the next one? What you going to do? So we got to do that. Thank you so much, Noor Islam, for your beautiful songs. Thank you for joining me, Amani, Papatia. I said Papatia.
Papatia.
I've said Papatia since I've
It's
known you.
fine. It's
Just
fine.
stop.
It's fine.
I need to stop, okay?
It's
Because
okay.
they
It's
called me
okay.
Lila, drove me crazy. Papatia, Nasheed, Nzima, Juwayriyah, Halimah. Thank you, Naima. She had to tap off.
Thank you.
Umm Zakiyyah had to tap off. This was a wonderful and exciting panel. Okay, don't forget to visit the conference website because of the book fair. 99 cents read. You don't want to pass up on these 99 cent reads, okay? Because these books, you know, if you think about them all together, it's just a little bit of coin you're going to be spending on it. So grab them up today only. So visit us at www.pathos.com/blog/NBA Muslim/BMACon, and the link should be in up there, over there, I think, over there. Okay. Visit our Teespring store because everyone's loving the t-shirts as well down there. Everyone's loving the t-shirts, the mugs, and everything like that. So do that as well. If you are a poet and you want a chance to have your first published work, click the link and submit up to 3 pieces to the
Muslim Youth Wanted. Muslim Youth Wanted.
Muslim Youth definitely wanted. Okay.
Muslim Youth Wanted. So tell your kids, tell your
Tell
sisters,
your
your
kids,
cousins, your babies.
tell your husband, tell your wife, tell your kids, tell your mama. Okay.
And this,
yeah.
This is where the money resides.
This is where it is. We're going
Thank you for the invite. This was a great discussion. Alhamdulillah.
Okay. And get ready for the next one. This has been a wonderful event.
Inshallah. Inshallah.
Nuts and bolts. Next Black History Month, inshallah. Don't forget to visit us at www.aboutislam.net. I want to thank our wonderful sponsors, About Islam, for hosting all of the panels, which was really, really great. I was just like antsy. I didn't think they were going to do it or anything like that. A special shout out to Nicola Taylor, who has been holding it down, our social media manager. Like, she has been on point and been doing it and everything like that. Jazakallah, Nicola, for such a wonderful job in making this such a wonderful experience and just getting everything to us and making it just so each live was fantastic. Jazakallah. Thank you to Jazakallah to our sponsors, NBA Muslims, Every Kind of Lady, Muslim Girls Read, the Muslim Anti-Racism Collaborative, Hot Hijab, who gave us all those wonderful hijabs. You got your hijab on, Amani, you got your hijab on, Papatia, got those hijabs on and everything like that. And wasn't that packaging just like awesome?
Yeah.
Beautiful, classy.
Beautiful.
I put my
Very
card,
nice.
see my card, I framed my card. It's right up there. Okay. Yes, I did. I'm corny sometimes. Yeah.
Great quality too.
Yeah, they're very quality hijabs. Okay, wonderful hijabs, everything like that. So visit their website because they have the sports hijab. Every look at she's like, they have the sports hijab, everything at hotijab.com. Daybreak Press, the African American Muslim Alliance of Tampa, the Muslim Connection, and Heart Women and Girls, a very wonderful organization that I hold dear to my heart. You can find out more information about all of our sponsors on the conference page as well. Whew! We did it.
Thank you.
May Allah bless all of you for putting this together.
Ameen.
Thank you so much for having us. Thank you.
Assalamu alaikum, everybody.
Have you back.
Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum.